Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Angela Danbring, and I'm the Executive Director of Dawn. On behalf of Dawn, I would like to welcome you to our first virtual Returning Dignity fundraising happy hour. The theme of our virtual event tonight is hope. It is said that hope is the only thing stronger than fear. And in the midst of this pandemic that has affected us all, Dawn remains a pillar of hope and help for domestic violence survivors. For those of you who have never been to our event or heard of our organization before, you may be wondering, who's Dawn? The Domestic Abuse Women's Network is a nonprofit organization that supports to empower and shelter domestic violence survivors. Furthermore, in order to prevent the terrible generational cycle of abuse, our prevention program also provides healthy relationship curriculum to middle school, high school, and college students. Serving South King County and beyond, Dawn believes every person impacted by domestic violence deserves to return to dignity. Serving survivors for 40 years, Dawn's vision has remained a world with everyone living in a peaceful community. In 2019 alone, Dawn provided over 28,000 services to survivors in need, answered over 5,100 calls on our 24-hour advocacy support line, and sheltered 132 women and children. That's over 9,242 safe bed nights in our confidential emergency shelter. However, our work is not done. In King County, for every one family that qualifies for confidential domestic violence shelter, 57 are turned away. Let that sink in for a moment. 57 families in crisis are turned away because of the lack of shelter for survivors. In fact, of the 5,100 calls answered on our support line, we had to tell 1,528 of those callers that we had no room in shelter. That is 1,528 too many. It is our dream and goal to someday expand our shelter to house more and even provide hard-to-come-by transitional housing. We hope to be able to update you on this dream development by the end of this year. What we know now is that these are challenging times, and abuse thrives in isolation. The need for our services are greater now than ever. Despite the pandemic and closely following established safety protocols, Dawn is weathering the storm, remaining that pillar of hope for survivors to turn to. Would you like to support us in the cause tonight? We know there's not a person watching this virtual event that does not stand shoulder to shoulder with us in our desire to bring peace. That's why you are watching tonight. You are our backbone and support, our donors, our friends, and our family. We couldn't do any of this important work without you. Now, I would like to recognize our amazing board members, both current and past, who worked tirelessly throughout the years for Dawn, and I am happy to work alongside you. Thank you. Tonight, Dawn is thrilled to partner once again with the Lucky 7 Foundation, who has offered a $20,000 matching challenge today. That is $20,000 they will give to match any donation today of $200 on up. We are so grateful to Lucky 7 for this generous gift. Thank you, John and Val Bacchus from the foundation. Now, a big thank you to our sponsoring partners this year. Solal Credit Union, we are so grateful to you for your continued generosity to Dawn. We'd also like to thank those that donated supplies, time, and talent for tonight's event. Zach Noling, Shelley Aang, and Rachana Narahari. Thank you for your tremendous work on this video event. Finally, I would like to thank our very special virtual guests, including Warna, who will bravely share her story about moving from surviving to thriving. Tricia Johnson, who brings a message of support on behalf of our long-term partner, the Washington Multifamily Housing Association, and Dr. Alex Sobel, who helps our survivors heal from physical scars left from their abusers. Thank you for all sharing your stories with us today.
Hi, I'm Tricia Johnson. I'm the Director of Events for the Washington Multifamily Housing Association. Our association is a trade organization, not-for-profit, servicing the multifamily industry. Our members fall into three main buckets: the property management companies who oversee large apartment homes, the on-site employees who work at these properties, and the suppliers that provide goods and services to this industry. We provide legislative advocacy, education, and networking events for our members. We began working with Dawn almost 14 years ago. One of our members had seen a chili cook-off in another state and brought the idea to us to partner with a nonprofit. He himself was a survivor of domestic violence, and thus our partnership with Dawn was born. Each October, we hold a chili cook-off the last Saturday before Halloween for our members. And in this event, we sell competitor tables, and our members purchase them to compete their favorite chili recipes. They theme their booth and they dress up a la Halloween style, and we have about 30 to 40 different chili recipes that our members come through and taste and sample and select their favorite chili in various different categories. In addition to the chili, we have entertainment, we have face painters and magicians. The Seagulls are usually in attendance, the Seahawks drum line and the mascot are in attendance, so it's a lot of fun. So our members pay to compete and attend, and in addition, we solicit donations from our membership and the local businesses for prizes. And then in exchange for donations, we give our members raffle tickets that they can win a variety of different items throughout the day. Also, we have a survivor from Dawn speak, and at the end of that, we solicit an ask of donations to Dawn. Dawn is a wonderful organization. We've been happy to partner with them for almost 14 years now. We've seen firsthand by having survivors speak at our event the impact that Dawn has had in helping these women and children escape domestic violence. To date, we have raised over $250,000 to Dawn, and I believe we are the single largest unrestricted donation they receive each year. So they're able to use that money in any way that they see fit in order to serve their the community. So we've seen them make improvements to the shelter to make for a better living environment for the residents of the shelter. And then through our partnership, they've also met many of our supplier partners who have been able to do work for them to improve the shelter and the surrounding area for the residents.
I'm Alex Sobel, I'm a general cosmetic surgeon. I've been in practice for just over 12 years, and my business is Anderson Sobel Cosmetic Surgery. We perform full body cosmetic surgery here as well as cosmetic dermatology. Yeah, I chose the domestic violence agency for several reasons. One, as in terms of service that I could provide a rather accessible group of individuals where we can apply our skills and our trade to help very readily. But on a more personal note, I found taking care of this population very challenging when I was in training. My initial training was in head and neck facial plastic reconstructive surgery, and I found these situations at an emotional level very challenging for me. And perhaps it's part of self-redemption, but now that I'm more mature in my practice and have the ability to re-engage, this was a population that I wanted to reach out to and attempt being a better partner than perhaps I was when I was a resident in training. My partnership began with Dawn approximately 1 year ago. It's actually something that my practice sought out. Particularly, we were looking for a partner in the community so that we could offer our services, cosmetic surgery, which I'm proud to say we're very good at, to a group of individuals who are very deserving of such services and don't otherwise have access. I reached out to Dawn specifically thanks to our very adept marketing team. This is actually not a marketing effort for us whatsoever, but they're basically a creative think tank and are very good at finding strategic partners. So what we did was we tasked them with something out of the box. Go find us a great outlet for this form of philanthropy, and they made some introductory phone calls and sent us in this direction. We love the feedback that we received back, and actually we received feedback from initial consultations, even just offering a patient an opportunity to voice their concerns and to be able to put those concerns in a medical context where they might have an opportunity to improve appearances of things that have been so traumatic for them, both physically and psychologically, is tremendous.
Mm-hmm.
So beyond even that initial consultation, that opportunity, sometimes the simplest thing is a topical skin medication that can very effectively lighten a scar that seems in some ways, very trivial to someone on the outside looking in, so incredibly meaningful, and we love hearing this kind of feedback.
My name is Carol Ann Thornton. My position here at Dawn is legal advocate. As a legal advocate, I am honored to provide direct services to clients that are intimate partner abuse, domestic violence, sexual abuse, advocacy-based counseling, legal supportive listening, being there to empower and encourage those that are in pain and to make a positive difference in their lives. We have community advocates, we have counseling, we have legal advocates, we have therapists, just an array of professionals that surround the survivors to empower them, encourage them, and support them through all that they're dealing with. I think that we can see Dawn as a very comprehensive, much needed service for those that are hurting and in pain. And I'm so honored that I'm here and that we have the clientele that we have, and we have the support that we have from the community, from our contractors, from the grants, and all of the community, because we all need that.
Hi, my name is Lizzie, and I'm the Teen Advocate and Violence Prevention Educator with Dawn, and I've been here for 10 months. I feel proud almost every day that I get to do this work. It's really hard to find time in the busy curriculum and with a bunch of things that teachers are trying to do. But when I do get in there, it's really a matter of like 10, 15 minutes of just giving kids the opportunity to talk about relationships, to talk about what they feel is healthy and not healthy, because it's a really interesting entry point for pretty much everyone. And I think kids are not given the opportunity to talk about that. No one values their relationships as being kind of valid or real yet. And so the moment you give them a space to like set their own boundaries and ask them how they feel about communication styles, about how they feel about technology, and those different things, then they really kind of light up and get really into it. I've been a feminist for as long as I can remember, even if I didn't know to identify that way. And I felt like I've tried a bunch of different work to try to bring that to the forefront of my work. And so this position seemed to be the wonderful combination of the power I believe that the educational system has, and the incredibly powerful work of helping survivors to name what's happened to them, to understand that the way that they're feeling is valid, to understand that their responses to these things are valid. And so my position here is a perfect marriage of those things.
My favorite part about my job is knowing that one day, in a very ideal, perfect world, that we will be able to eliminate domestic violence, but knowing that every day I am doing everything I can to reduce it in the meantime. Shelter can be all things. The most exciting thing about shelter is probably walking in the morning. All of my clients and the residents are saying good morning, cooking breakfast, getting the kids ready for school, getting ready for work. The house always smells like breakfast. And then from there, you usually get a lot of people that'll come up to you, ask you how your night was, what does the day look like? Can I meet with you? Can we talk about this? And then it's a lot of one-on-ones, a lot of navigating different housing properties, management, different organizations that help with like moving cost. So it's definitely different at shelter. The advocacy looks a lot different and it's a lot more intimate.
I'm speaking to you today about abuse, a very serious and misunderstood topic. I was raised in the South. My home life was abusive, yet nobody really knew what to call it. It was just the elephant in the room that nobody addressed, and everybody lived miserably. I watched my mother go through abuse daily. I lived with abuse daily at the hand of my father, emotional, physical, sexual. And yet, this is what I thought was the norm. In the South, I married, and I married an abusive man. I took the pattern I was raised with right into adulthood, not understanding the dynamics of what it was or how to handle it. We tried marriage therapy. It failed. I tried to leave several times, and each time it failed because I was unprepared. I would return for one reason or another: lack of money, lack of suitable homing, lack of understanding, lack of emotional support, as well as financial and physical support. Finally, in 1985, we decided to leave the South and move to Washington for a new start. We thought maybe a new canvas to start life on would be just the thing that we needed. So we did. We packed up our belongings with our 3 young sons, and we traveled up to Seattle, Washington. There we thought we would have a whole new life. But the stresses of a new world, bringing things together, our home, getting the kids settled, having a new job, and the familiar faces and places of the South were no longer there. Stresses mounted, and the abuse was back. I was depleted of all my hope. I was very, very down, extremely depressed, thinking no way out. I sat down and wrote a suicide note for the first time in my life. There beside me was my own gun that I had purchased for protection only, not to use on myself or on a family member. It was only for protection. But now I had a new purpose for it. It would be my way out. As I sat in my stillness, I picked up the gun and contemplated what I would do with it. Would I put it to my head? The note is written. Now what do I do? I closed my eyes and I thought about my sons. I thought about them coming in the front door from school, looking for their mother, and finding me dead on the floor. And I could not traumatize them in that way. Life was not good for them, but this was not the way to leave them to deal with it, and a mother that would abandon them. I couldn't do it. I tore up the note, and I flushed it down the toilet, and I put my gun away, and I never got it out again. I never went back there again. But the very next day, the hand of the Lord stepped in and saved me by bringing Dawn into my life, my very good girlfriend that had observed these situations. Without even having to tell her, she saw what was going on, and she handed me the phone where I talked to Dawn. The next day I went in with my 7 pages listing all the things that were happening in my home by the hand of my husband. The facilitator sat there and she looked as she did my intake. And she very strongly looked at me and said, "This is abuse. This is horrible. You should never have to have endured these things. This is not okay to live like this, and we can show you a new and better way to live. We can help you be free, you and your children. I took that help. She appointed an advocate that took me through every step of my uncertainties. She answered all of my questions. She aided me through the whole problem that I was faced with. I was scared to death to go to court, and she was right there by my side, going before the judge. I got my protection order. 7 days later from this time that I started, my husband was removed, escorted from my home by the police with protection order in hand. I stayed close to Dawn, attending their support groups, learning so much, being empowered daily, thinking about all the new things I was learning, what manipulation looked like, and how to identify abuse so as not to repeat these patterns of living. I enjoyed so much hearing the stories, the confidentialities of the other women that were just like me. Abuse might have been common, but it certainly wasn't acceptable. I am so grateful for Dawn. They did tell me everything I needed to know. I am free, and you can be free too.
Hi everybody. Thank you, Lorna, so much for sharing your story. It's inspiring and harrowing, and thank you. Cheers to everybody for our happy hour fundraiser. My name is Annie Ramirez, and I'm the Director of Development here at Dawn. I'm here today to talk to you about how you can provide help and hope for families like Lorna's and the many other survivors we serve by partnering with us. However, first I'd like to talk a little bit more about Dawn and our survivors. In 2019, we served 1,219 unduplicated survivors. Most of our clients are women and children, though of course we also serve men and non-binary folks. Most of our survivors live in South King County and Seattle. More than half of them are people of color, and most come from low to no income families. Last year we served survivors who spoke 17 primary different languages. And on that note, Dawn embraces and supports cultural diversity. Our staff also represents the diverse populations that we serve. Many of our staff are bilingual or speak several languages. These numbers represent the survivors that we serve, but I think it's also important to share the stories when possible. So sometimes support means life or death for a family. And last year, our agency's crisis line received a call from a woman who explained that her husband had assaulted her the night before, and she was terrified as he had been acting erratically. She knew she needed to leave with their children immediately. She came to Dawn's office with bruises around her neck, and she was shaking. One of our advocates met with her, and during the hour-long appointment, she received 30 text messages and 4 voicemails from her husband. The text messages began by asking where she was, telling her she needed to go home, and telling her she would be sorry if she didn't get back to him or get home. He was also calling her horrible names, and there was 11 of those texts in a row, and talking about how he wouldn't live without her, so alluding to suicide. We were able to safety plan with her and make arrangements for herself and her children to stay the night at a motel, one of our partners. She and her children arrived at the motel under an assumed name, and as she was putting the children to bed, she heard a knock on the door. Thinking it was motel staff, she just opened the door only to see her irate husband there, and she was obviously terrified, screamed, slammed the door, and called 911. She didn't know how he found her. By the time the police arrived, he had already taken off, but the police did discover a GPS tracker on her car, and so that is how he knew where she was. So we were able to move her to a different motel, and for her safety, it was also suggested that she consider getting her own mobile device because they had a shared plan, and that plan allowed for him to know where she was. So she went to a mobile phone carrier and shared her situation with them. And of course, they said the same thing, update your plan, get your own plan. And so she decided to do that. But unbeknownst to them, it sends out an automatic email to the main phone account holder, which was her husband. So he showed up at the phone carrier place within minutes. And so they were able to get her and her family to the back of the building and call 911, and this time he was arrested. His truck was sitting in the front of the store, and after a search, they found two brand new boxes of bullets in his car. So making that difficult step of calling the crisis line most likely saved her family's life, and they are safe today. And since we can rarely show you pictures of our survivors because they need to remain anonymous for their safety and privacy as a woman and her family, I thought I'd also share with you a couple of quotes that were taken from anonymous client surveys that we give to our survivors to ensure we are providing efficient and effective support. It's important to hear their voices as well that may have been previously silenced in an abusive relationship. So one survivor wrote, "Dawn has changed my life in different ways, like how to handle situations like DV, and my advocate Ada is very supportive of me and my family. Ada is kind, respectful, and trustworthy person. Thank you, Dawn, for opening the door of freedom for me and my family." Another survivor wrote, "With Dawn's support, I feel hopeful for my future and my child's future." This feeling of safety, empowerment, and hope is something we strive to give all of our survivors. It is returning dignity to them. According to the King County government website, the #1 cause of homelessness for women and children in King County is DV. We've already mentioned the great need for this special emergency and confidential housing with the 57-1 King County turnaround rate. As you've heard, we're working on a plan to help address this astounding gap in service as we speak, and we hope to bring you an exciting update by the end of the year. But here's how you can support survivors today, through your donations. Donations made to Dawn continue to make this life-saving, hope-giving work possible. This fundraiser is critical because your donations provide flexible funding that allows Dawn to serve survivors in a holistic and tailored way. For example, we're able to provide deposits for a family moving out of shelter and into their own home, or to be able to cover an urgent care cost for an unexpected illness or accident. Your support makes such a difference in the lives of men, women, and children who have been affected by domestic abuse. We ask for your contribution tonight to continue our mission to support, empower, shelter, and educate, to help us fight for other DV survivors who need to be pulled to safety before it's too late. Your generosity right now, especially during these hard times, can also help us expand our programs into more schools to continue those conversations about change in culture and help us lead the prevention of domestic violence among young people. So will you help us support, empower, and shelter and educate? Will you make that investment in Dawn today? If you are considering an amount that you can give, don't forget that we have this incredible matching offer this evening from the Lucky 7 Foundation. They will match dollar for dollar of your gift of $200 and up to $20,000. Our goal tonight is to raise $50,000 in this flexible funding that allows us to best serve our survivors. So how do you make a donation again, you ask? If you scroll down on our same page where you clicked on this video link, you'll notice towards the bottom it says our virtual table captains, and you'll see icons with their names under it. These serve as their virtual table. So to make a donation, you simply click on your table captain's icon or the Dawn icon if you don't have a table captain, and it takes you to a secure donation page. From there, you'll be able to select the donation amount and put it in your credit card details. You can also make a donation by just clicking on the box on any of our website page at dawnrising.org. It's located at the very top of the page, and just be sure to type Happy Hour Fundraiser in the notes section so that we know it gets applied to there, because we want to apply it to that match so your donation has double the impact. If you would like to send a check instead, you can mail it to our secure box at P.O. Box 1449, Kent, Washington 98035. To give you an idea about what this support would mean, a donation of $200 allows us to provide 4 hours of legal advocacy to a survivor. And that's a service that has risen in demand by 22% recently. A donation of $1,000 provides 34 hours of personal advocacy and safety planning for a survivor, like the woman who came to us from her family looking for a place to stay away from her abusive husband. That is our most requested service in 2019. And a gift of $2,500 provides 6 weeks of shelter, food, and support for a shelter resident. That's 42 safe sleeps for a child. I know giving a gift of $2,500 or $1,000 can seem daunting, but you can also make your donation in monthly payments. A gift of $1,000 breaks down to only $84 a month for 12 months. $84 a month provides 34 hours of support, help, and hope for a survivor. If this is something you can do, there is an option to specify a monthly gift on the virtual donation page. Finally, if you'd like to see your investment in action, we will soon be resuming our happy hour tours of Dawn about the work we do at our offices here in downtown Kent. If you are interested in learning more, then please be sure to check the box on the virtual page in the additional info section that's located below your payment details. It says, "Send me upcoming Dawn facility tour info," and I promise you will be inspired. This work is hard. The journey continues to be difficult. But you are here watching this evening because you know, like me, there's no other option. There's only one way to approach the issue of DV, and that is to go all in. A huge and final thank you to our sponsoring partner this year, Salah Credit Union, and many thanks to our matching gift partner, the Lucky 7 Foundation. We are so grateful for your continued generosity to Dawn. Thank you all for watching. Wishing you all continued health, hope, and peace. Cheers.